Welcome everyone, this is Mundan Raghavan. In this series, we are going to see the different aspects of the robot framework. As part of this video, we are going to see the robot framework introduction. In order to get every details about the robot framework, we can just navigate to the robotframework.org, even from the introduction. For example, robot framework is a generic open source automation framework, and we can use for a test automation for the different applications, such as the web application, desktop application, mobile application, and so on. And we can use it for robotic process automation as well. And other details about the robot framework can be found here. And it is a one-stop website that you can find every details about the robot framework, including the installation gates, including the syntax, including the tutorials, everything you can be found here. And after that, how to install? The basic point about the robot framework is implemented with the Python. However, we can use the Python and Java language to code with the robot framework. And other about, let's say, community details and the resources can be found here. Especially about the resource library, you can see the different libraries based on our automation task. For example, web testing, mobile testing, let's say API testing, SOAP testing, or desktop application testing. And we can have a lot of variety here. By using the robot framework, we can do anything, almost anything. So this is all about the introduction about the robot framework. Let's consider whatever may be your task. You want to just start with the robot framework. So before starting the robot framework, we will just recollect the points that we have seen here. As we discussed, robot framework is the open source automation framework, not only for the web applications, it can be used for the desktop application, mobile application, API testing, and a lot of other things. And we can do the robotic process automation as well. The main point about the robot framework is keyword driven and user acceptance tests. Means that you can write the UAT test cases by using the robot framework, and you will be using the keywords. The keywords will be very brief and it will be very short, so that the end user can create the automation test cases very easily, rather than focusing on the code and rather than seeing the entire code in your, let's say, IDE. And robot framework or robot files will be having the extension called .robot and supported by the Python and Java. However, implementation done in the Python. So this is the very summary about the robot framework introduction. Now we are going to install robot framework in our system. In order to just start with robot framework, since it's implemented in Python, we need to have the Python. In order to just download the Python, you can go to the python.org and you can go to the download section. And based on the OS, based on your architecture of your system, you can download anything. For example, Windows, Mac OS, or other platforms such as like a Linux. Once you download it, and let's say if you go to the command prompt, just type Python, and you can see the Python console here. Even you can see the version of the Python. So this confirms that you have installed the Python in your system. And next one will be, if you don't find these things, just when you install something, you need to just look for the path setup. So which means that you need to set up the Python exe or Python binary file location to the path variable of your system, so that wherever you type the Python command, it will be working from there. And next one, since you have installed already Python, in order to work with the Python, you can use any one of the IDEs. And you know that PyCharm is one of the famous IDE for the Python. So you are going to install the PyCharm. So in order to install the PyCharm, you can just Google it, PyCharm. So it will be from the JetBrains. So www.jetbrains.com. And you can see the community version, and you can download and you can install. It is just like AXE in case of Windows. You can just double click and click on next, and you will be having the PyCharm in your system. Now see here. Now we have installed the Python, and let's say we have installed the PyCharm. Now we are going to install the actual library for the robot framework. So make sure that you are using the same kind of version in case if you are facing any other difficulties. If you don't have any difficulties, you can directly install the robot framework. A robot framework can be installed by using the command prompt, by using the pip command, since you have already installed the Python, or you can go to the PyCharm. From the PyCharm itself, you can install the robot framework. Apart from that, you know that PyCharm is for Python, not for the .robot files, correct? So in order to support the .robot files, in order to have auto suggestion for the .robot files, at the same time, you can run the Python file. In order to have an option to run the .robot file, you need to have some plugins. So this is a very minimum combination of plugins that you need to have all this combination or all these needs, such as like a .robot file extension just to support the auto suggestion for the robot file and run the .robot file. So those kind of things. So let's jump into the PyCharm itself and we can install the robot from there and we can see the different plugins there, how to install that. So let's go here and just click on the settings icon. Even you can go from the settings as well. For example, you can go to the project and you can just click on here and you can see the settings. Sorry, file, and it will be settings or Control Alt S. So here you can see, so these are the different packages or let's say the different libraries available for your Python. So in case if you don't have the robot framework by default, because I already have installed the robot framework, so it will be there. So in case in your system, it will not be there, right? So just click on the plus icon. Based on the different systems or the different Windows OS versions, it might be in the different places. Some places it will be here and sometime it will be on the your right hand side or sometime it will be on the bottom. So just look for the plus icon and click on the plus and type for the robot framework. Here you can see the robot framework. And here you can confirm this is from the exact same site, robotframework.org. So just download the version and you will be having the robot framework here. So now we have installed the robot framework, but if you have the .robot file, the PyCharm will not support that one by default. So you need to have some extension. So let's say if you're creating the .robot file for the first time, you will not be having this coloring syntax or you will not be having the auto suggestions. But by default, if anything other than .py are the very default things like HTML files or the XML files, by default, the PyCharm will suggest you to install the plugins. So you can go with the default plugins, but however, I would suggest just to install the same plugins that I have used here, because some plugins having the problem for the auto suggestions. After doing a lot of research or a lot of other combination testing, I have found that this is the minimum 2 combination of plugins that can help us. So just go to the Python and go to the settings icon here. You can find the plugins here. And here you can go to the install. For my case, just I will type the robot. So since I have already installed, it will be under the installed. Let's say in your case, you just go to the marketplace and type for the robot. Let's say type robot framework itself. Here you can see Hyper Robot Framework support. At the same time, you will be seeing the robot framework support. So it is, I think, a combination of both the things. So that's the reason. So let me see the another plugin. Robot framework, and what was the another name? So Hyper Robot Framework and space. So you can find this one. Okay, fine. So if you just type space, you can see robot framework support and Hyper Robot Framework support. In one plugin, there is a space between the robot and framework, and another plugin, there is no space. So simply you type the robot framework with space and without space, you can find the same thing in the marketplace. Here you can see robot framework support. If you just want to see the Hyper, so Hyper Robot Framework support. So just after getting this one, you can just go to the any other things. Since I have already installed, it will be installed. So in your case, you can just click on the install. It will install the plugins required. So after installing, everything is good. So we are going to start as an introduction here. So we have not seen what is the structure of the .robot file, but however, just like a hello world program, we will write a simple test case. Here you can type the 3 stars or asterisk symbols followed by the test cases. This is the default statement that you should have for the test cases. And everything will be following the title case. Title case in the sense every word will be having the first letter as the uppercase. So there you can see test is the in T is the cap and cases C is the cap. And second, you can have the test case name. So in my case, it's the first robot. And you can have just a console statement or printing statement log to console hello robot. Since we have already installed the required plugins, you can see the coloring difference between the keywords and the string content and the different sections of the .robot file. sections is highlighted, like test cases is highlighted with green, and the name of the test case is highlighted with the orange, and the keywords were highlighted with the yellow, and the string was highlighted with something pink, or let's say the near to that. And since we have installed the plugins already, you can right click and see run hello.robot. It will run the .robot file like a normal Python file. Okay, fine. We can just analyze the initial output. So here you can see by default, it just gives the output in the XML format, HTML format, and the log also. So here you can see the different, let's say the reports, but however, we can focus on the report.html and we can open with browser. So here you can see a default report. It will be having all the details such as like a status, start time, end time, and how much time it was taking for execution, and the log file. Even you can navigate from the log file here, and all the test cases and the status and the default things. Even we can have the different other details such as like a tags, suites, and searching with the different keywords. We can do that. But however, since it's the introduction section, we are just going to see a default HTML report here, and we can just go to the log.html, and here you can see the logs, and here you can see the other details such as like the full name and the source file and other information. Here you can see the keyword what was used and the documentation and other things. Since it's a very introduction, we will just go through these sections again in the detail session. So coming back to the PyCharm, here you can see it will be having the default session, or it will be just under the test cases section, and we will be having the test case name. In our case, it's the first robot, and we have just a print statement or log to console statement just with the hello robot as a string. And we have just seen the default statements, or let's say a default reports for the test execution. So just to summarize everything, we will just go to the side again. So robot framework, it's an open source automation framework just for the web applications, and also for the desktop application, mobile application, API applications, and even for the RPA tools. And it will be basically on the keyword driven. So if you just compare with our first program, you can see log to console is the keyword. You don't have any implementation here, even with the Python or even with the Java. You may not be, you don't need to require to actually know about the implementation here. As a end user, as a UAT tester, you will be just writing the keywords just to implement your automation. So that's the beauty about the robot framework. Here you can see the keywords will be log to console. And here it is a user acceptance testing. Okay, fine. And it will be having the .robot extension. Here you can see our file has the .robot extension, and it will be supported by the Python and Java. And this series we are going to see with the Python. If you want in Java as well, you just comment in the section. So we will just see how to do with the Java as well. And we have seen if you start from scratch, you need to first install the Python. After with Python, you can install the robot framework with using the command called pip install robot framework. In other case, you can just go to the PyCharm and you can install the PyCharm, and you can install the robot framework from the interpreter settings, and you can install the plugins from the plugin settings. And these are a very minimal combination for the required for the robot framework in PyCharm. By using these plugins, we can just see the .robot file extension support, and we can see the different coloring syntax, and we can run directly the .robot files from the PyCharm itself. So this is all about the introduction about the robot framework. Hope you have enjoyed this video and install all the necessary things to continue with the next video. Thanks all and have a great day.